Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
All right, everybody, it is the first or third Tuesday of the month. That means it is Heaping Spoonful. Well, this is the platform that we talk about the Mid-South food scene. This is the podcast, the Mid-South podcast that we talk about the Mid-South food scene. And if you've been listening to the shows, you know that, I know a lot of people that come on here. A lot of the people, the first, 4 or 5 guests that I had, I knew them. It was kind of like, I'm going to get my feet wet. Let's get used to the technology. Let's do this. Let's do that. But what I really get excited about is people that I don't know. I've had a couple. I had Brad Izzard on a couple weeks ago, Capitol Hotel. Good dude, talented guy. But man, I can tell you this right now, that when I said your name, everybody was like, yeah, man, he's the dude, man. He's the guy. Like, he's the guy that you should have on. He's a stand-up dude, talented as hell. Like, he's the guy that you should be across that table from. So I'm really excited about today. I appreciate you coming in.
Oh, you're welcome.
So across the table from me today, I have Joe Salgueiro, Joe of So, who was the original owner-operator, correct? Am I right by saying that?
I was the original executive chef when I opened up So Restaurant in 06.
In 06. Yep. 06. It seems so long ago.
It's like 17, 18 years.
Crazy, man. I'm getting old. It's nuts.
You're not telling me nothing. My daughter's 13. I'm like 53. Like, if I wasn't going to have this venture, I was like, when I got to a point to open up a restaurant, I was going to call it Restaurant 52, only because it's taken me 52 years to open a damn restaurant. But nobody would have, would have understood it.
It took me 45. And it's funny. We talked about it before on here. It's a lot different, like running a restaurant and owning a restaurant. There is a big difference there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a huge difference.
You being an executive chef, you have the stress of just, cooking, teaching your cooks how to do stuff, putting menus together, your costing, all that stuff. But now, as you being an owner, you're on the oversight of everybody. So now, you got not just the bills to pay for the whole restaurant, but now you have to make sure to take care of all your employees, making sure they're getting paid. Trying to balance your checkbook.
And your life.
And the life. Unfortunately, my wife, she's been with me for almost 17 years, and she's used to me, working the crazy hours that we do as a chef.
Yep.
So she's, God bless her for dealing with me for all these time.
That's what I say too. It's like, I don't know. My wife's an angel. I don't know how she deals with me. Yeah. I'm a son of a bitch, man, and I know it. I try not to be, but it's.
I almost lost her at one point because we were like, I told her, I was like, because I've been through 2 divorces already because it's industry. Yeah. First one was young and dumb. The second one, I tried to do it right because of the kids and stuff. And my third marriage now with Dawn, we were like, I told her, well, if you can deal with my shit within 5 years, then I'll marry you. Yeah. And then we got to that point, hey, it's 5 years. I'm like, you're good.
All right, here we are.
Let's go get married.
So what I want to do is, we're going to talk about some current events, but man, I really want to know. So, man, I love the fact, and again, I'm learning about you, and I knew this before, we started talking today, but you're from New York. Where are you from?
So, born and raised in the Bronx. Started, I would say, I grew up in the streets. I was in high school. I studied art, so I actually wanted to be an artist. I used to draw a lot. A lot of that kept me out of trouble, even though I was still in trouble. Yeah. Basically, the black sheep of the family. Yeah. So if you understand how that goes,
I certainly do.
Anything that went wrong is like Joe did it. But yeah, like I was studying art and everything. I've always loved the arts. So even like when I was cooking in New York, I used to DJ at night. So I used to do a lot of house techno and stuff like that. So I would get out from work at midnight, and then my friends and I, we would, DJ at the clubs in New York. So that was always like my out, having fun,
Yeah, yeah.
But I got to, I say when I was like 17, my mom was like, she asked me, so, well, what do you want to do with your life? Because I'm not going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And my mom's old school because, like, my parents got divorced when I was 10. And they basically, I'm going to show you how to cook, clean, wash dishes, clean toilets, do everything on your own. I'm like, basically, you don't even need a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you need to take care of yourself because once you're 18, you're cut off from me.
Yeah.
And which was great. It was hardcore,
Yeah, but we needed that.
Yeah, parents was hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I was like, well, she was like, well, why don't you, I know you love to draw and you want to be an artist and stuff like that, but your work is probably going to be more valuable when you pass, when you die.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of true. He was like, you love to eat. I was like, why don't you just, go into a culinary field? So she got me my first job at a bank called U.S. Trust down in Wall Street because that's where she was working at, and they was looking for a garde-manger cook at that time. And then the two chefs that I had was Varia and Katie. And like I said, it was executive corporate dining room. We had clients like Michael Jackson and some other people in there because they basically took care of their accounts. And stuff.
Right.
But that's where one of my places that I got my feet officially wet. Before that, prior to that, what I did was in high school, they had like, I guess down here you might call it as like a job corps program.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in high school.
Yeah.
So basically, senior year, they took high school students and wherever you wanted to be a profession at, let's say you want to be a lawyer or accountant, mine was being a chef. You had a 6 months program that you interned at a restaurant or law office or doctor's office or whatever like that. And then they gave you credit for those 6 months for working. So that's how I started on my first restaurant.
Like a working internship.
Yeah, working internship.
Yeah.
So funny part on this, so the executive chef at that time, he was from Trinidad. And then the sous chef, he was Asian. And I can't remember where he was from, but so I think I was there for almost like 2 months on an internship, and then INS comes walking in the door, and just every person that they had in it that was illegal was trying to get out. And the problem is that the restaurant itself, so it's a New York style restaurant, just like like it's in Philly.
There's not a lot of doors.
There's not a lot of doors.
Yeah.
Everything gets prepped up in the basement,
And you
then
roll it up.
then you move it up. So INS goes in front of the street hatch where the trash is supposed to goes up. They put a lock on that door. That's the first thing they do before even they raid
on the
restaurant.
Bilko, man, on the Bilko doors. Yeah.
Before they even raid the restaurant. Next thing you know, they come in and they're basically going to every restaurant doing random checks. So we have like almost 8 guys in there in the morning because we did lunch and dinner. And they're all trying to like run to the basement and they're hiding behind the trash bags and everything for these people not to find them. And next thing you know, they grab them. And I think at that time it was like $3,000 to $5,000 a head for fines.
Yep. So
from my internship that was technically not supposed to be paid, the chef came out and goes, hey, so you want to pick up some hours and I'll pay you like $300 a week cash.
And at that time you were like,
oh, it was huge.
Yeah.
I'm like 17 years old making $300 cash.
That's
and then
money,
I have prom coming up towards the end of the year. So I was just like banking everything.
What'd your suit look like when you went to prom?
Oh, it wasn't one of them corny 80s suits like with the blue flowers or anything. It was just a plain black, simple, clean black suit. I could do that. My uncle got married in one of those like old 70s, 80s suits that had all the purple.
All the frills and whatever it is.
Florals. Yeah. I mean, that was.
I thought you were gonna say I was rolling in money. I got this white suit.
Oh no. But yeah, so then from there, I started at that restaurant, and it was like a 3-star restaurant. You know, it was upscale. It wasn't like fine dining, but it was an upscale restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. And that's where I first got my feet wet in this internship. Then after that, I went to U.S. Trust in Wall Street. So I was there I think we was in Wall Street for 2 years. Then the company itself moved to Midtown on around 42nd, 43rd Street. So then we moved over there. But like a lot of the training I did, because it wasn't a normal setting. So we had to pre-make menus per week.
Oh, okay.
So we had to have menus already done like a month in advance. And it was every day was a different item. So like I basically had like 2-3 appetizers, 3 salads. I did all the ice creams, sorbets. I used to do all the catering platters that would go up to the different private rooms. But it wasn't like, we weren't doing like deli sandwiches. We were doing like co-poached salmon and stuffed fish and, you know, stuff like that. Everything high end.
Legit, yeah.
So then from there, I had a couple of waiters that worked at the New York Palace, which used to be the Hemsley Palace, which used to belong to the Hemsley.
Yeah.
So apparently there was a position that opened up. They needed a tournant. So basically, if anybody doesn't know what a tournant is in French, it's basically like a roundsman.
Yeah.
So they basically move around to wherever spots that are
whatever
available.
you need.
So like 2-3 weeks, I might be doing breakfast at 4:30 in the morning, and then get out at 1 or 2 o'clock. But half the time, because the hotel was so busy, they would send me up to banquets.
Yeah.
So I would be pretty much there almost like 14, 16 hours a day.
Yeah. Every day.
And then so during that transition, the Sultan of Brunei was buying the hotel off of Leona. And funny, because the money was so disgusting, the Sultan bought the hotel for his son as a birthday gift, a 25th birthday gift.
Oh, that's nice.
How would you like a hotel for your 25th birthday, So when they would come with the entourage, they would take the whole top 4 floors.
Yeah.
And the women weren't able to leave the building. So what they would do is they would close down the Villard House restaurant at that time, and they would call in like Gucci, Prada, all these fashion designers to come in, and they would load up with trucks with just clothing in the restaurant.
And they do a show for them.
And do a show for them. And then we would just cater to them like food-wise. Champagne, caviar, or whatever they wanted to eat while they're doing this, 6-8 hour, modeling show. And sometimes it would last almost 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you own the hotel.
And do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever.
But, nights like that, we never went home. The chef would get us hotel rooms upstairs because we were on call for 24-hour service.
Yeah.
So we basically do our shift, stay as long as we can. We got you, we got your room. So one of the rooms I got was like, I couldn't believe it because the hotel was sold out. I wound up getting a corner suite on the top floor. I was like, hey, I said, enjoy this because it's not going to normally happen. And I was like, dude, I said, this freaking penthouse is like a house.
It's a house. Yeah, it's probably bigger than my house now.
Oh, dude, it's like, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was looking over, Central Park and everything, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh my God, like every time I turn the corner, I was like, there's more building.
Yeah.
And it had its own kitchen.
The whole setup.
You could live there.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how much is this running a night? It was like, oh, that's almost like $10,000 a night. And I'm like, damn. And I'm just sleeping on the couch.
I'm just laying on the couch.
Watching TV,
I'm not
and
even.
I can't even sleep because I'm being amazed. I'm 19, about 19, not even 20 yet, and I'm like in a penthouse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's like walking around. Yeah, it's like walking around your grandmother's house too. You don't want to touch anything. Like,
No.
I'm gonna mess something up.
And then I'm like their bathroom's as big as my apartment. How New York apartments are.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So from that hotel, I left the hotel, and the only reason why I left the hotel is I got laid off from the hotel because there was a fire that happened. Some type of wiring went off, and it killed a whole bunch of floors. So they basically, because it was a union house, they basically they lay off anybody, the earliest people that got hired.
Right. Yeah.
So then from there, I wound up going to a 3-star French restaurant called Annabelle's. And the chef, I was there for about a year, and you'll enjoy this because it's a restaurant story. So like I said, I was there for about a year or so, and I worked for Jean-Christophe Michel. He was a chef from La Tour de Jean from France. And, the owner brought him down. So I worked with him, and I was like the minority in the restaurant because everybody in there spoke French. Which was cool and stuff because they even hired a consultant to come in to work with him because he didn't know any English, and he was basically the translator in the kitchen. So I worked with him for about a year, which was great. I had great experience with him. And then the owner one day just decides to pack up and leave. And so we're all coming to work, and the chef calls him up and says, "Hey, the locks have changed." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I've decided to go back home to France and shut down the restaurant." Like I said, you're going to enjoy this because it's a typical restaurant story.
Pretty much. You got to keep your staff. You don't want them quitting.
Yeah.
You know, you keep them to the last second. And
It's, like I said, it's a small French restaurant. It's like 65 seats. We only did dinner. But because of, I guess, being in New York and, like I said, him being French, which I understood his issues with it. So, we have a menu that he's put together. And then, you have a lot of Americans sometimes coming in. And they're like, "Oh, can you do a burger?" And he was like, "No." I said, "I didn't come all the way from France to make a burger. There's McDonald's across the street." Then we had people who would come in and try to, change the dishes. They're the chefs. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You've worked so hard to put flavors and profiles and textures together, and then now you thinking that you're the foodie, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm the chef. I can put stuff together."
Yeah.
And it'd be like, he would go out straight into the dining room and tell him like, "No." I said, "There's no substitutions. This is the way the food comes out. If you want something off of another dish, you can order a side of it, but you can't substitute anything that I've put together."
Yeah.
And like I said, the dude was hardcore.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I respected him for it. And I mean, like I said, and because of it's New York, I mean, you got so many millions of people just like in Philly, you're like, well, I ain't worrying about you. I got like another 9 million people that are going to walk through my restaurant.
No worry about it.
And they'll appreciate what I put together.
I worked for a guy, and his name was Dino. He was from Italy. He was like in his 60s. And whenever you put a special out, he would do the same thing. He'd walk out to the table. It was an Italian place just north of Philly. Yeah. Same thing. Somebody tried to change the dish. "I want this, but no capers," or whatever. Yeah. And he would walk out and be like, "No, you're going to eat it this way, or you're going to order something else. Yeah. You don't like capers, order something without capers." Yeah. It's like, no.
Yeah. And like I said, and that's just that, old school, European mentality, which I completely understand. I mean, because the hard work that you do to put stuff together, and then all of a sudden somebody deconstructs it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get it. You don't like capers or you don't like this, but I mean, just try it.
Yeah.
You're
here for a reason.
You're here for a reason. Yeah. And it's not just for you to eat, but the whole food industry for us as being chefs, especially when you're doing fine dining, is to educate people that have never eaten fine dining food before. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can go anywhere to eat a good, decent burger, or, you can go to Applebee's, Chili for just like some regular food. But when you're trying to eat fine dining food, that's stuff that is not on your normal palate or menu.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole point of you being open-minded and trying things for the first time.
Absolutely.
It's like, "Oh, I don't like anchovies." Guess what? You didn't even know there was anchovies in the sauce, and you saying that the damn Caesar salad is wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's little stuff like that. So then from Annabelle's, and so the funny story with Annabelle's is, the chef, Jean-Christophe, was good friends with Eric Rippert from Le Bernardin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And at that time, once that happened, he was trying to call Eric to get me on his staff at the Bernardin at that time. And he told him, goes, man, I understand how good of a cook he is, but I got like a stack of applications, like, 6 inches thick of people waiting to get into my restaurant for almost 2 years. And I just can't skip them.
Yeah.
So from there, I wound up, I actually worked at Mesa Grill, Bobby Flay's place for a little bit, for a couple of months.
Okay.
And then from there, a sous chef position opened up. Restaurant was called Mulholland Drive Cafe, which was right next to his original spot. So that was basically my first stepping stone into management. And boy, if people here don't realize what like a sous chef gets paid now compared to what it was back then, it's totally different.
You're basically a line cook.
I was making, I think, $480 a week, and I was working 90 hours a week.
Yeah.
Just,
And that was pretty much, a lot of that was scheduled too. Like, you're just going to be here, man.
Oh, yeah.
You're just going to be here.
I mean, we did lunch and dinner. The restaurant was 250 covers. We had a small piano in the middle of the dining room. We opened 7 days a week. Sunday brunch was huge. One of the hardest things was that they never shut down the restaurant. So, like a lot of restaurants now, you do lunch, shut it down.
Yes.
And then you reopen at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was open all day long.
Yeah.
So we went from a lunch menu transferring over to a dinner menu.
Yeah.
And the Sunday brunches were horrible because we had to do a transformation. We're supposed to open up for dinner about 4 o'clock at that time. We were still serving brunch at 3:30, 3:45. So I got nighttime cooks trying to come in here to transfer themselves to get ready for dinner.
Try to flip the line.
I still got my breakfast cooks putting brunch out.
Still putting food out. Yeah.
Still putting food out.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was one of the transformations that I worked in a restaurant that was like the most horrible thing to work through.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to, you got nighttime cooks trying to set up, you got morning cooks trying to clean up, and then now you got patrons coming in at 4 o'clock ordering half chickens and pastas and all this stuff. So now you're trying to get this food out, not including people that are calling out, and you're missing cooks. I can't tell you how many times, I got cooks that couldn't come in, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be working the expo line with the executive chef because we had 2 separate stations. So you had a hot line and the cold station, and the cold station was almost as big as a hot station.
Yeah.
So and we would communicate with each other, when appetizers or salads or stuff or desserts would be going out and stuff like that. And those times I had to just jump on the line and start, and start working.
Now you're cooking. That's it. Yeah.
Now cooking. And then next thing you know, and then the restaurant didn't shut down until 2 a.m. because it's New York.
Yeah.
Most restaurants, not like here in Arkansas, they'll shut down between 9 and 10 o'clock, and then you have some of your after hours that are up.
Yeah.
But just like in Philly, restaurants don't close.
Yeah.
You have restaurants in New York that just cater to chefs when they get out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're open.
Yeah. They're open 24 hours.
They're open 24 hours.
Yeah.
So with Mulholland Drive Cafe was fun, and I said it was an experience. And then when I talked to the executive chef when she hired me, and they had a second restaurant, which is in Lower Manhattan, which was called Bobbio's. And they were a little more casual. This was more of it wasn't fine dining, but it was like an upscale dining. And I had to ask her, I was like, why'd you hire me? I mean, I'm sure you probably have, plenty of more qualified chefs than I am to take a sous chef position. So her name was Mildred. She was the original executive chef at Windows of the World when the first bombing happened.
Okay.
So she told me the stories about her and the people in that building trying to climb down from 100-story floors, walking straight down through smog and fire and everything. And she said that, and she, like I said, she's a tough-ass woman. She comes from Puerto Rico. She was hardcore. And she would tell, the ladies, because they would panic, and I get it. It was a bombing that happened. People are freaking out, and then, the emergency crew is telling them, hey, just everybody hold their hands, it's completely black as they're going down the staircase. And this is all coming from her words, from her telling me the stories. Hold on to the railing, everybody hold on to each other's hands and just, walk floor by floor.
Yeah.
And she said, the women are freaking out, panicking, which I understood that. And then she would tell them, all right, listen to the people from 911 and the cops and the fire department, listen to them and just shut the fuck up. And the only way we're going to get down is you guys relax, breathe, and follow the procedures they want us to do. We still got 99 floors to get down to the main floor for us to get out of here.
My God.
So after that bombing happened, she told me, it's the last time I worked for a high-rise restaurant ever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when we worked together at Mulholland and she hired me, she was like, Joe, you don't understand. I have like a stack of sous chefs that I've been through. And a lot of them, that came in, they're just cocky.
Yeah.
And for me being a woman as a chef, we got to work twice as hard as a woman and a man in this industry because it's basically, it's a man industry. Mm-hmm. And I don't need somebody that's going to be, cocky to run my restaurant. Mm-hmm. I need someone that's going to be able to humble, that I can train, mold, and do what I need them to do. Yeah. Because we have 2 restaurants to run. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some nights that I'm not going to be here because I have to go run the second restaurant. Yeah. And I need someone to take over for me, just like if I was,
like it's theirs.
Like it's theirs.
Yeah.
And that's the way I always took it. Every restaurant that I worked for, I took it as it was my own, even when I first started in the business. Mm-hmm. And all the knowledge that I've taken from all the chefs that I work with, and I work with a lot of European chefs, and a lot of them can be a-holes and pricks and stuff like that. But one of the things that I respect and love, that I loved about them, is that I learned from them. Yeah. And I learned a lot from them. Mm. Like you got guys going to CIA, spending $80,000, $100,000 a year, and
just in debt.
Just in debt.
Yeah.
And I went to school at New York Tech in Brooklyn. Yeah. And at that time, I paid maybe it was a city college. Yeah. I paid like $35,000 for my associates.
Yeah. I went to the Art Institute. Yeah.
And
I'm not doing that.
And I learned. The majority of my work is I learned from the chefs that I worked
on the job, on the job.
And I mean, this is just my opinion, but because we're in America, everybody wants a degree. Yeah. And in Europe, it's totally different. In Europe is who you work for, who you worked under. Yeah. So if you're working for, Daniel Boulou, or you're working for Eric Rippert and blah, 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 and this and that, and you work in X amount of years with them, and then you basically stay there 2-3 years, learn, you go to the next fine dining restaurant, you learn, and then keep pushing yourself forward. But like I said, because we're in America, everybody wants to,
everybody wants a degree. Yeah,
everybody wants a degree. Mm-hmm. And I'm not knocking the colleges or anything, but you have a lot of students that go in there and be like, oh yeah, I want to be a chef because they see, Gordon Ramsay on the TV, and then they see all this, stuff that's happening on TV, but they're not realizing the back of the scenes that they work 60, 80 hours a day to get where they're at,
It's great. So it's funny that you say that too. So I worked at a place at Lower Gwinnett called the William Penn Inn. It was like a wedding venue and stuff like that. We did we had 3 dining rooms, a la carte service, plus wedding venue. And there was a couple guys that were interning, there were guys from the CIA. Mm-hmm. One of them was, Johnson and Wales, and he was home. Yeah. He was home just, visiting and doing some hours over there or whatever. And, these guys, I'm not saying they couldn't cook. They could cook, But the minute you say, like, hey, man, we just booked another party for tomorrow night, so we got to blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, man, I'm only scheduled until 9 o'clock. And you're like, I don't even know what that means, man. Oh, yeah. I don't know what that means. No. And then on top of that, they're getting out of school. They're not learning how they got to work. And then when they graduate, they're like $300,000 in debt. Oh, yeah. And you're like, bro, you're not going to work that off because you ain't going to work it. It's not going to happen.
Because you don't realize that, first of all, now, don't get me wrong, you do have some talented people that go into the culinary schools. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, I guarantee you, they've been in the business beforehand. Absolutely. And then decided, hey, I want to go get my papers. Yeah. And then, work it. But a lot of them don't realize when you get out of these culinary schools, you're coming out at paying, you might be getting anywhere from $13, $14, $15 an hour to start with. Mm-hmm.
But they ain't telling them that.
But
They're not telling them.
they're telling them, hey, when you graduate, you're a chef when you get out of here, and blah blah blah, and you have the whatever title of the school is.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not trying to pick a school or anything.
Yeah.
But you get the title of the school, and they don't realize that, guys, you're basically an educated commie.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the realization of it, and like I said, I probably get slack about it, but it's the truth. You're in
100%.
school to be educated, and that's what you are. Now, once you get your education and what you make of it, it's on you.
Yeah.
But like I've had a few of my friends that went to CIA, and they were in debt for $70,000-$80,000, and then when they started working in the restaurants and they saw how much they were getting paid, within 2-3 years they freaking quit.
Yeah.
And they got another job doing something else at a different career that they're making,
paying off that
and
loan.
they're still paying off that loan, but they're making more money than they're working in the restaurant. And and then the other thing is too is you have to be able to handle the stress that goes on with the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
It's when you're working behind that line. Like when I worked at the Four Seasons in New York, we were doing 1,500 covers a day, fine dining.
Yeah.
I mean, we were doing, like, our lunches were 500 people eating Dover sole and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're not frying French fries.
Yeah, you're not frying French fries and turning stuff over within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything has to be intricate in plates and everything that you're doing. And you got 4 or 5 chefs yelling at you at the same time, screaming.
Yeah.
Like, our chef had a microphone just like this and would, yell the orders over the speakerphone. Half the crew was in there was international. So we had guys from Thailand, we had guys from Korea, we had guys from Indonesia, we had guys that were from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rican, Japanese.
Yeah.
My executive sous chef, he was Ecuadorian.
Yeah.
My executive chef, he was from Switzerland. The owners were Italian in Switzerland. My chef de cuisine, he was Thai, but he worked with Daniel Ballou, so he was the one that trained me. And I was there for almost like 7-8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the reasons why I stood there for so long is because it was an intercontinental restaurant.
Yeah.
And we did so many different international foods.
That's awesome.
And which was amazing.
Yeah.
And
when you have all those different people from different places.
Oh yeah.
It's a beautiful melting pot.
It's
awesome.
huge. I mean, it's like the most amazing orphanage you can ever be in.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're creating all different types of food. You're learning from your staff alone. A lot of the dishes that I've put together is become from family food. From the guys cooking for us, because we had to cook family food every night.
Yeah.
So at the end of the night, the chef would be like, "Hey, I need you to cook tonight. Make something."
Yeah.
I got scraps from the.
That's what I was gonna
shop.
say. I got this in the banquet fridge. Go get that, and we cook for the staff. Yeah.
And that's how it was. And a lot of cooks, when would come into the restaurant, that say that, hey, he's a sous chef or whatever the case might be. The chef would be like, okay, here's I got these products. Make something together.
Yeah.
And on a normal basis, you look at it and like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I'm not even getting any good quality stuff. I'm getting like scraps left over from the butcher.
Yeah.
Like if you can make something out of that and make it taste good.
Yeah.
Or the other thing was that when I worked at the French restaurants, the first thing they do is have you make an omelet.
Yeah.
If you can't make a 3-fold omelet and not have any color on that omelet, you're washing dishes.
Yeah.
As sad as it was.
So I've been through the egg thing. I've definitely been through the egg. Like chef made me cook eggs 3 different ways. And he just gave me a pan and was like, all right. And it's in the middle of lunch service too. And he would just tell the guy that was working over there, he's like, hey, he's doing eggs today, which meant he's on interview with these eggs, So I did the egg test. Also this is a good one. So actually this didn't happen to me. It happened to a buddy of mine that I came up with, Tyler. Guy handed him a box of gloves, like a box of gloves that we use in the kitchen. Right. It's like rubber gloves, whatever, latex, whatever that was. Handed him a box of gloves and he said, open this box. And so he took his thumb and he worked his way around the circle, the circle, and he pulled it out. And he goes, okay, you start tomorrow. So then, months later, he's like, Chef, what is up with the box thing, man, with my interview? He said, man, if you would have ripped that box open and just tore into it, he said, you're not working in my kitchen like that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's how people do it,
Well, and I'm saying with the whole box thing, because now you're showing that, one, you got precision, one, that you care.
Yeah.
And you just,
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So I left Mulholland Drive Cafe, and Mulholland Drive Cafe, unfortunately, it was another restaurant story. So the owners that owned that and Bobby O's. So what happened was they decided to remodel their apartment. So they took about almost $500,000 out of the restaurant to refurbish their apartment.
I work with business partners like that before, too.
And that's what got Leona Hemsley in trouble.
Yeah.
Because what she was doing is, when she decided to redecorate her houses or penthouses, she would run it through the hotel as a business expense. Now, also, too, with the chefs that she had at that time, if you weren't a union chef, 90% of the time you got fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she would keep you on payroll, and she would keep your checks. That was another issue that she was getting in trouble with.
God.
So, like, if you ever saw the movie that says, "Oh, Mama's Coming" or whatever, the Oleona Holstone, a lot of it was basically true. Like, one of the chefs that I worked for, he was the head top garde-manger chef in New York at that time. He did amazing ice carvings. He was Japanese. Amazing ice carvings, tallow art. I mean, like, he would take stuff and make it into a carousel. I mean, it was amazing. Unfortunately, he passed away. Too much excessive Budweiser.
Yeah.
But very talented. 9 out of 10 times, he would be the one that cooked for her. Because the regular chefs that are on regular salary would be like, "Hey, Mama's coming. I need you to cook for her."
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knew he couldn't fire her because it was in the union. But getting back from Mulholland, so decides to renovate the apartment or renovate their penthouse or whatever it is, and then starts trickling down.
Yeah.
And checks start bouncing.
I was gonna say, then the checks start.
Food purveyors are
Phone starts
running.
Yeah.
So it was just like basically, about to shut down. So one of the waitresses that worked at the restaurant, she worked at the Four Seasons for almost like over 15 years. And she told me, she was like, "You're a good chef and everything." I was like, I have a friend of mine I'm gonna talk to in a restaurant, see if they can hire you. I didn't know what restaurant it was. So she went and talked to Christian Hitch Album. He passed away a while back, but at that time, she was like, "Hey, I got a good sous chef that's working with us. The restaurant's about to close," and told him the whole situation. He was like, "Well, tell him, come down." And so I interview, and I go to the Four Seasons restaurant and interview and everything. And, he hires me and everything, which was awesome. And I was like, whoa. And on my personal life at that time, I was going through my first divorce. So I'm like 25, 26 years old, and I'm in the Four Seasons. Now, I'm going to be jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
My grandparents and my family on my mother's side have pretty recently have moved to Arkansas. My grandparents retired down here.
Okay. There's that connection. Okay.
They bought a house in Maumelle when Maumelle was just trees and grass before now that it's a huge city now.
Right.
Back in the day. So my mom at that time, and I think I had about a year at the Four Seasons. It was around right when Clinton got in office. And my mom was like, "Oh, you need to come down to Arkansas. They got fine dining restaurants and stuff like that." And I was like, "Mom, do you realize where I'm at right now?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" "I'm at the Four Seasons restaurant, Mom." I said, and I got in by like luck.
Right.
And she was like, "What do you mean by luck?" I said, "One of the waitresses I worked with, the last restaurant I closed down, worked there for almost 15 years and is good friends with the chef and got me in." I said, "These restaurants, you just can't get in."
Yeah.
I mean, because like in New York, just like in the larger cities, you get a stack of resumes back in the day, and you just walk every restaurant that you want to work for.
Absolutely.
And give your resume to, and you hope that there's some type of availability in there.
Within a month, if you're lucky.
Within a month, if you're lucky to get a response.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not moving, Mom.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I was there for almost 7 years, and like I met so many people over there working in the Four Seasons. Like we had Tyra Banks come in one day in the kitchen. We met Mike Tyson. I met George Alfini from The Sopranos. The Robin Williams story that I was telling you before we started when we was doing the Cigar Fictionado dinner.
Yeah.
We used to do all the James Beard Award dinners there. We had 1 year Charlie Trotter come down and do one of the
awesome.
dinners.
Yeah.
We had an Italian chef from a Michelin star restaurant come one day to do a course at one of the special dinners that we had. Madonna used to come in and eat our crab cakes all the time.
Nice.
I mean, these are all stars, like, in their young heyday compared to us,
Right. Yeah.
But also had, I was trying to think, there's a lot of things. Like I said, I learned there so much because of like with my chef de cuisine, Pecco, when I worked with him, he used to do the majority of specials on the saucier station. And then the executive sous used to do the specials on the grill side. And so when he would put the specials together, on the days that he was off or like when he would take on vacation, the executive sous chef would come to me and say, hey, can you make the special that, Pecco made? And I'm like, which one? He makes like 2-3 specials a day sometimes.
Right.
It's like our specials for lunch, like what we serve here for dinner, let's say we sell halibut and stuff like that. That was our lunch specials.
Right.
Like we sold a $90, truffle potato during white truffle season.
Right.
And people here would be like, what, a $90 truffle? Yeah, I mean, you're spending $2,000-$3,000 on a white truffle. Yeah, you're paying $90 to $100 just for a baked potato with white truffles.
Absolutely.
And then we used to do, anywhere from pastas during the seasons. We would do, truffle pasta. That would run anywhere between, at that time, it was like a small bowl was like $90, $125 for a large bowl.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever the chefs wanted to create once the truffle season came in. And one of the great things that was fabulous working for the Four Seasons is that it was the reason why it was called the Four Seasons. We changed the menu seasonally.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like a couple of items.
The whole thing.
The chefs were ready a month in advance before the season started. They're already looking at product that was going to be coming in during that 2-3 month period.
Absolutely.
And, making the menu for it. And that was, like I said, it was the most intriguing and amazing stuff.
Awesome.
You see product coming in that you never saw before. Like, holy crap, I got to see urchins coming in. And we would do a scallop Saint Jacques. We getting fresh scallops in, and we're shucking the scallops from scratch and keeping the roe and everything, and cooking everything from scratch. The restaurant itself was one of the few restaurants that still had a butcher station. It had a meat, fish, and poultry station. It had a saw in there. So all our meats that came in were on the bone.
Yeah.
Dry age, prime. I mean, all our racks of lamb. We would have a suckling pig during the season. I mean, everything got butchered.
That's awesome.
And unfortunately, that skill is almost a dying skill right now in restaurants. Because most of the stuff comes like pre-cut. You have few restaurants that still butcher like fish, but I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. It's hard for you to find a restaurant that actually has a butcher shop in it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
But it was, and that's what was one of the specialty parts of that restaurant, because like I worked pretty much every station from we had an oyster station. Basically, dude, all he did was shuck oysters, clams, make shrimp cocktail, and carpaccio. That's all his job was all day long. All day. That's all he did.
Yeah.
When you basically work on a saucier station, you're pretty much at a sous chef level. We had 4 cooks. One cook in the back, all he did was sear proteins all night long. That's all I did. And we used to sell a lot of duck items for two. Mm-hmm. So we used to sell duck for two, goose for two, depending on the holiday. We used to have either red snapper or black bass for two. Yeah. And basically it was French style service. So we had like a la carte items that were plated. But we also had a lot of stuff that would go out on silver trays, and the captains would go out there and cook on the garridons.
Right. Tableside. Yeah.
So, like, if you order steak tartare or Caesar salad or something simple like that, that was done outside in the dining room.
Yeah, they just take everything with them.
Take everything out, and they would do it out there. Caviar setup, it would be done out there. You just give them the product, and they would put it out there. I mean, it was old school. Some of the stuff we did was modern, but we also did old school. Steak Diane, that was done outside.
Everything.
You know?
That's awesome.
Like I said, and a lot of that was fun because you got to see, you know, traditional cooking, and, you know, traditional French-style European cooking, but also we also do modern dishes on top of that.
Yeah.
Like the chef one day came in and he was like, at that time, Alan Richmond was one of the food critics for GQ magazine that year. I think it was in around 96 to 98 or 97, something like that. And he was like, hey, I got Alan Richmond at the bar. Can you make him something? And I was like, okay. Because we used to get a lot of clients like that would come in and be like, hey, it'd be a VIP, and whether it's an actor or, you know, some congressman, a businessman, whatever, and be like, hey, they want a special menu, tasting menu.
Yeah.
And we would have to get off the line and start cooking with whatever product we have and figure it out and make something new. Mm-hmm. And so I made them this buffalo dish, because we had buffalo on the menu, so I just transferred and took the products that we had and just changed it up. So I made pan-seared buffalo with black truffle sauce, gave them with chanterelle mushrooms, fingerling potatoes, and some foie gras on top.
Nice.
And I think it was 2 weeks later, the chef comes over and goes like this and throws a magazine on my face. And I was like, what's this? I said, open up page 2. And he took a picture of the buffalo dish, and it said, best buffalo dish that he's ever had.
That's awesome.
And he was like, I was like, you keep that. That's yours. You did that. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, that same year, we had Ruth Reichel from the New York Times that would come in, and it was right on white truffle season. So I made her a white truffle risotto as an appetizer. And then a couple of days later, the owner comes in, Julian, and he goes, hey, who made the white truffle for Ruth Reichel? And then Pecco tells me, well, he first goes to Pecco. He goes, did you make him? I go, no. I said, Joe made the risotto for her. You made the risotto for her? He goes, yeah. I said, look, we're in a newspaper. Said that we got the #1 white truffle risotto in New York City. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
That's awesome.
So it was stuff like that, you know, you're behind the scenes as one of the cooks. You know, even though you got a title as a chef, you know, you're still a cook.
Yeah.
You know, people joke around with me. He goes, oh, you're the big boss. You make all the big money. Because no, I'm still a dishwasher, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of getting my hands dirty. I'm not a clipboard chef. I mean, that's why I'm always behind the line. Even when I work with a couple of corporate places, they're like, well, you're the executive chef. All you need to do is walk around with a clipboard and check everybody and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not me. Yeah. I said, I'm the dude that's going to be cooking behind that line. You can have somebody else. Well.
Yeah, somebody else can do that.
Because I'm the one's going to be making sure that, you know, all the food goes out correctly. And it's just, I've always been a masochist behind the line.
Yeah.
It's basically what I can say.
Yeah.
You know, I've always loved that pressure.
Successful ones are, you know? That's what happens. So, Joe, this is what I want to do, man. We're going to take a quick break, all right? And then I want to talk about
Okay.
Man, I'm looking at some of these dishes that you're putting out, man. And I want to talk about some of these dishes, all right?
Cool.
All right, we're going to pay some bills, listen to Rusty's beautiful voice, and we'll be back here with Heaping Spoonful in just a minute.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Chef Brian McFadden.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Heaping Spoonful right here in Benny Keith Studios out here on Route 70. You know, we're chilling in Rose City right now. I'm talking to Joe over here from So. Joe, man, I'm telling you, so I can pick a couple dishes off the top of my head that I have seen, you know, social media. You know, I follow everybody, man. I follow everybody. I saw this Duroc pork that you did the other day. Oh, was it Berkshire? I thought it was Duroc.
No,
It didn't say Duroc on the.
no, it's a Berkshire pork.
It was a Berkshire.
Yeah, it's a local farm that's here. It's called Newman Farms, and the Berkshire is here grown in Arkansas. Gets shipped to most of the fine dining restaurants in Chicago and in New York. When I was talking to the owner, I told him, I was like, I've been working with Berkshire pork since like 16, 17 in New York, and I didn't realize that the farm was here in Arkansas.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and he was like, well, you know what? You're one of the first local restaurants that's using our pork here, because most of our pork gets sent out.
That's so awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And what was that dish?
The pork.
Yeah.
So it's a sous vide pepper bacon rack pork chop. So what I do is basically the rack comes in, I clean it up, get it set up. I pound out the bacon, wrap the bacon around the pork chop. Then what I do is I put it in a sous vide bag with olive oil, butter, and some fresh thyme. And then once I seal it with the bag, what happens is that the bacon compresses onto the pork chop.
Yeah.
So once I sous vide at like 155 for about, I'd say a little under 2 hours.
Okay.
And I ice it down as soon as it comes out. So when the patrons or the customers order the pork chop, what we do is on a cast iron skillet, we basically crisp up the bacon, and then we finish it off in the oven for like 5-6 minutes, and it pretty much takes about almost 12 to 15 minutes normal cooking time for regular pork chop if you're doing it by hand. Especially it's a 16-ounce pork chop.
Right.
But with the usage of the sous vide part, what happens is that your pork will stay moist at 100% level, and you can't overcook it.
Yeah.
Especially for the timing that you need to crisp up the bacon to pull it out and serve it. So when you cut that pork, it's like butter.
Yeah. It just melts in your mouth.
It just melts in your mouth. And I've had like my waiters have tried it, and they're like, they've eaten like some other dishes. Like I have a venison dish that's on there, and they're like, man, that thing is amazing.
Yeah.
But I had like the pork chop the other night, and like it just took me to a whole nother level. And I couldn't believe it, like how juicy it was and tender. And I was like, it's the whole technique and cooking process that you're doing with it. And it's basically with sous vide and like we're doing some stuff with gastronomy at the restaurant. It makes it a more modern type cooking, which is basically how I named the title of the cuisine, American New Cuisine, because it's basically modern contemporary cooking with infusions of different international dishes and stuff.
Right. I tell you, man, like I said, I've been following it. You had a scallop dish. What was the scallop dish that you posted?
So the scallop dish I have on there, it was funny because I've had a lot of people that have come into a restaurant and they're like, I've never heard of that before. It's a scallop ramen, and it's in Japan. They do scallop ramens. In Asia, they do like seafood ramens. So when I was putting this menu together, it was funny because when I did the menu, it took me a couple of days to do it, and it wasn't for so. This deal wasn't happening at that moment. It was just me sitting down and deciding to be creative.
Yeah.
Because as much as I enjoyed working at Pleasant Valley Country Club, I was in a rut when it comes to my culinary skills.
Yeah.
And so I just sat down one day and I was like, man, you know what? I want to make a menu of food that I would like to serve one day if I had my own restaurant.
Yeah, nice.
And this is how this menu came up. Now, with the soul menu, there are some products that I put on there from when we first originally opened up, but I put a new modern twist to it. But a lot of the dishes that are on there, they're all pretty much, brand new.
Gotcha.
So when I was doing some research and, trying to put a different seafood dish on my menus, So I did a lot of research of the fine dining restaurants here in Arkansas and Little Rock, and seeing what dishes what they were putting together. And I was like, okay, well, I see this one one's almost copying this one and just changing this ingredient to that. And,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I was like, all right, well, I said, I like cooking bold. I like cooking international flavors, and that's just me. So I was like, okay. I was like, ramen, love ramen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was like, well, let's do a scallop ramen. And then, started making it with, I was like, okay, we can make it with the dashi and all that stuff in the base. But then what I did was, so with the ramen broth, since I have a halibut ceviche, so I basically use the bones from the halibut to make a fish stock. So what I do with that fish stock, then what I do is do a clarification of it, like if you're doing a consomme.
Okay. Yeah.
So once I get that consomme stock done, now I start working on the dashi part of it. So then I have the kombu and the dashi ingredients that go in there. So once that sits in there for a couple of hours, then what I do is I finish it off with a white soy sauce, and that gives you that extra seasoning flavor. There's no salt in it. It's all just.
It's all coming from that.
It's
Yeah.
all flavor.
Between the dashi and the soy.
So
Yeah.
you're just getting all stages of umami flavors into the broth of the ramen. So what we do is we have seared scallops that goes on there. We make a house-made bacon that goes on there because most of your like the ramens, they have a smoky flavor.
Yeah.
And usually 9 or 10 times there's some type of pork in there.
Yeah. Needs a little fat too.
Yeah, you need a little fat.
Yeah.
So we make a house-made bacon that goes on there. Sauteed scallops. Then we have shiitake caps that are seared separately in sesame oil, so you have a different flavor coming from that. Nice. So now you got house-made bacon, sesame flavor from the shiitake mushrooms. The vegetables, we have baby bok choy, which is locally grown from here. We add some onions, peppers, some carrots in there. We have shiitakes, and we have some extra shiitakes and oyster mushrooms that go into the broth itself with the ramen noodles.
Nice.
Then we finish it off, not like a traditional ramen egg the way it's cooked, but what I do is I sous vide a duck egg at 63 degrees.
Nice.
And we finish it off on top of that.
That's awesome.
Ramen.
Nice richness there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And duck eggs, dude, I can eat them all day.
Oh, they're delicious.
Oh my God. I got a guy that brings them to me, and I just love them. He just drops them off on the desk. If we're busy, I'll go in the office at the end of the night, doing invoices at 10 o'clock at night. I walk in the office and there's duck eggs on the desk. I'm like, all right, cool.
They're delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. Love them. Man, so we talked about New American. We talked about So. So, I mean, you opened up So 2006. Mm-hmm. Okay. You left for a while for a stint, and you're back. And I know there's a lot of people that are happy that you're back. A lot of people. What other things can we expect? What's my experience when I go to So? We talked, we stopped in Rusty's office on the way up, to the studio here. And you dropped a couple things. You talked about wine. We talked about cocktails. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that a little bit. So wine. You're working on curating that list right now.
Yeah, so with wines, right now what we're doing is my sommelier is Jeff Yance. We've worked together for so many years. We used to work together at 1620. Mm-hmm. We also were at 1620 Savoy when Rush Harding bought 1620 from Yvette and Tim, Tim Brady. And from there, with 1620, when Rush sold 1620, then I went down to Cash, and I also helped open up Cash at that time too.
Okay, yeah.
Because the transition was that they had opened up. They took over the old 1620. They bought it. Mm-hmm. They turned it into 1620 Savoy, and basically it was getting Payne Harding's feet wet to get ready for Cash.
He had mentioned that when I talked to him. Yeah.
And then, so when we opened up Cash, I was basically bouncing back and forth from 1620 Savoy to Cash. And then it got to a point that, Tim had told him that, hey, I can't send Joe down there anymore because 1620 is getting busy. So after Rush sold the restaurant, then we went, then I worked for Cash for about like 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then from there, 2017 is when I went to Pleasant Valley Country Club, and I was there for about 7 years. So when Ron brought this project to me in December that he was, taking the restaurant over, and he was like, I need you to, run this restaurant, and I want you to be the new, managing partner of So. Mm-hmm. And he had asked me, I was like, do you want to change the name or anything like that? And I said, I've contemplated it, but I don't want to change the name because what I want to do is keep the name alive because when, basically as a tribute to Jeannie, his wife that passed away 4 years ago, we opened the restaurant together.
Yeah, yeah.
And So's location, I've always loved So and the Heights and Hillcrest up there because it reminded me of Soho in New York.
Yeah.
Even when I first was here,
It really does too. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole area, the vibe and everything. And at that time, I was working at, before I got hired in '06 to open up, so I was working with Andre Perot at Peabody. I was the chef de cuisine at Capricio's. And at that time, I was feeling homesick because I was only here for almost like 2 years from New York.
Yeah.
And when I got into the restaurant, I looked at it and I said, okay. I said, this feels just like a New York style restaurant.
Yeah.
And when they opened it, the managing partners at that time, I looked at it and I was like, hey, this looks like Balazar's from New York. And I worked with the GM from Balazar's because he used to be my GM at Mulholland Drive Cafe.
Okay.
And when I sat down and told them that, they thought I was full of shit. And I told them, I said, look, I got his phone number right here. It's Michael O'Hara. And they're like, and they thought I was pulling their leg. I was like, you got the Balazar book? His face is on the back of the book. You bring me the book and I'll tell you that's his face right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they went downstairs and they got the book, and I was like, yeah, he was my GM for almost 2 years. He left there and then was the GM of Balazar at that time. And they were like, it was just like, they couldn't believe it. And the funny story with So is, I never went there for an executive chef job. I went there for a DJ gig.
Are you serious?
They had a lounge downstairs, and one of the waiters that was working with me at Capriccio says, hey, they got a lounge downstairs, and they might be needing a DJ.
That's hilarious.
So it went from the music aspect part of it, which, like I said, this all has to do with the arts.
Yeah, yeah. It's all the same, man.
Yeah, to find out, like, well, I hear that you're an executive chef. And I was like, yeah. I was like, would you be interested in running the restaurant? And I was like, and that's how the conversation started. But yeah, so we opened it up, and then, getting back to what's happening now, Ron was like, out of anybody that I know of, and like the deal between Ron and Rush Harding was the one that was able to make this. Two big boys got together, they gave him a couple of months, and we figured everything out, and to get the restaurant up and going so I could do this relaunch. So during that time period that they were discussing is when I was getting everything ready. Like, I was going there every Monday on my days off and overlooking the restaurant and seeing what the restaurant needed and what changes I wanted to make. Because in the kitchen,
Which was a lot.
Yeah. First thing I needed to do was deep clean the whole kitchen because I was going to cook in the way that this kitchen was situated at that time. And then I was looking at all the dead space on the walls, like, all right, we're going to need shelving, we need this, Then I had to order the equipment that I needed. I had to get, sous vide machine, backpack machine,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other stuff that was missing, like the Hobart mixer that was there when we first started was gone. It broke and never, got a new one. So there was a lot of little odds and ends that was missing. Then I had to concentrate on not just the menu aspect of it, but now how I wanted to present it.
Yeah.
So now I had to get certain dishes for it. So like I got a buttered chicken on the menu. So I was trying to find some original like Indian dishes to serve with it. And, like you'd be surprised how Amazon can be your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
So, I started finding different plates and different companies. And I was like, okay, well, I can use this plate with this dish. And I can, because a lot of the dishes that are at my restaurant, they're specifically there because of the dish.
Of the specific dish, yeah.
So for the presentation of it. And that a lot of it, when you're doing food, especially when you're doing fine dining food, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes that people don't realize. It's not just the chef making the menu. Now, the chef has to think about garnishes that goes on the plate. So you have to think of the actual plates that you want to serve it on.
Yeah.
Like the ceviche, we have it. It's basically it's a martini glass bowl, in there, and basically we put the shaved ice in there, and then you have the martini cup in there, and then we put the ceviche in there.
Right.
So it's little stuff like that. And that same dish I'm using for when people order caviar.
Yeah.
You know, I have these little abalone shells that I bought from Amazon to put the gouda that goes with the caviar.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's all certain looks that I wanted.
You buy the dish for the dish instead of buying the dish for the dish.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason for it. You know, you have people that come into a fine dining restaurant. I mean, you look at Per Se in New York. I mean, look at the old Charlie Trotter's. I mean, Alinea.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the great Michelin star restaurants.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, you just don't go in there for the food, but you're going in there for the presentation. You're going in there for the service. You're going in there for the wines. You know,
do you do a tasting menu over there?
Yes, we do. And actually, I'm glad that you said that because I do have a tasting menu that's on the menu. So basically, when you come in, so the whole situation when I put this menu together is that I wanted to, my goals are still like if I was in New York running a restaurant, even though I'm here in Arkansas. Is basically we're shooting for, you know, James Beard Award, Michelin star, and that's basically what our mentality is at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Now, granted, for the short time that I had to flip this restaurant over, to clean it up, to get it going within 3 weeks, I mean, we've accomplished so much.
I've been following you. Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand what was happening. I mean, you do have people that do know what's happened prior.
A lot of us locals know what it was before you got back
Right.
there. Yeah.
So the transition of what we've done together as a team within a 3-week period is huge. So like getting with the wines, the whole restaurant, the way we want it is to be exclusive. So when it comes to the food, the wines, like Jeff Yance right now, he's working on having all our wines that you cannot get in Arkansas. Or most restaurants can't get in Arkansas, or maybe later on they can. But we're basically, even with our whiskeys, we're getting liquors in here that are first timers that are coming into Little Rock.
Right.
Like we're flushing out our old wines that came with the restaurant, and we're almost like a month in advance to have a full book menu of our new wines.
That's exciting.
Which Jeff told me the other night that he was like, man, dude, we're like ahead of schedule of a month. The way that people are coming in here and drinking our wines, and
that's awesome.
The way we're pairing the foods with them. So with the menu, you can come in and you can order a la carte of the dishes I put together. Which right now, what we're going to be starting soon, probably within, I say probably by the end of the week, because I just want to make sure we have all the proper buttons for it and everything, and it's working correctly. That you could come in and you can have a 3-course tasting, 5-course tasting, or a 7-course tasting, but it'll be off the menu.
Okay, yeah.
So, and wines will be paired with your dinner.
That is badass.
And all you need to do is the waiter will ask you if you have any allergies, if you have, gluten-free or anything like that. And basically, it's the chef's show.
Nice.
So I will give you whatever I feel like,
Right.
but it will be off the menu. Now, if you do want a chef's tasting menu, which will basically be off the menu,
Right.
all I need is maybe 48 hours, 72 hours the most to put a off menu together, get with you, and you can look at it. I get with my SOM to pair the wines with it, and I'll show you the menu. And if you guys approve it, and then that's particular night, wherever it is, if it's a business meeting or if it's just anniversary or whatever type of party is.
Right.
And then we can flow with that menu.
That's awesome.
And that's why I was saying that I'm trying to, with the aspects of having James Beard Award and Michelin star restaurant, that's why we're shooting for. Like when you come in, you're getting an amuse bouche as soon as you walk in the door.
Right.
Besides whatever appetizers you want. And then the amuse bouche will change on like a weekly basis or daily basis depending on how I push it out and what it sells. I mean, what I want to create. At the end, when you receive your check, you get a macaroon at the end when you get your check.
Nice.
Just saying as a gratitude, thank you, and it's something sweet before you leave to be like, instead of you getting a mint chocolate as you're walking out the door.
Right.
Yeah. So these are the aspects that we're trying to roll with as a fine dining restaurant.
Yeah.
And trying to make it exclusive.
Yeah.
You know, like I was telling you guys in Rusk, don't be surprised. You guys might get, I might have baby eels on the menu or something like that, or bring some sea urchin in or something like that.
Yeah.
Truffle season, I might have some white truffles in there. People might freak out on the price on it, but it's just, hey, this is something seasonal that's coming in. That's something that you're probably not going to be able to get in Little Rock.
Yeah.
Most people are not going to be able to, get white truffles. You have a few restaurants that can get it.
Right.
But it's stuff, keeping stuff fresh, new, seasonal is what we're going for at the restaurant.
That's awesome. So, all right. So I can tell you, like my spot, if I were to come in, basically what I would order. If you're walking in the door, like, all right, say you got somebody new, all right, and you're just like, all right, chef, just whatever, off the menu that anybody can order. If I'm walking in and I'm sitting down, I want to hear like your chef's recommendations.
So what we've been doing is, so I have a foie gras on the menu, but it's as a side dish. So if you have a piece of steak or whatever, you can add some foie gras.
Add the foie. Nice.
So what I do is I have a special that I'm running with is I do a Malibu pineapple compote with toasted brioche, foie gras, do a coconut snow, and then a pomegranate glaze. Now, the coconut snow is basically you're getting into gastronomy.
Yeah.
So basically what you're doing is you're taking the coconut oil, you're warming it up.
Maltodextrin?
Yep.
Yeah,
tapioca maltodextrin, and then it turns it into a powder. Nice. And then what I do is I add a little bit of powdered sugar to give a little bit of sweetness, and then we do a little bit of shredded coconut in the snow, add it to it. And then we do toasted shaved coconuts on top of it.
I picture that in my head.
So we had... So when Joe came in with his directors and producers crew, so his the producer's family, wife and kids came in, and Jack's my GM. Told him, says, "You guys need to try the foie gras." So we sold 2 foie gras, and the kids and the wife never have eaten foie gras before, and they all ate it. And before the end of the night, I told them, "So I heard you guys had foie gras for the first time." Yes, it was amazing. I've never had liver before, or even duck liver.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was incredible.
That's awesome.
And it was just like, but it was all the components that we put together, because you think about it, you have the textures, you got, and the pineapple that I'm using, I'm not using a regular pineapple. I'm using the pink pineapple that comes from Costa Rica that I'm getting from Ben Keith.
Yeah.
And basically all I do is dice it up, saute it in butter, deglaze it with the Malibu rum, add a little sugar to it.
Nice.
And then I'm cooking the foie gras on top of the flat top. Then I take the brioche bun and put it right in this foie gras fat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's basically like if when you're cooking a burger.
Yeah.
You put your bun in the same burger grease, and
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So then that's how we played it, and you have different textures between the snow, the crispy toasted coconut, the pineapple compote, and then you got that pomegranate glaze. So you have like 5 different flavors working in your mouth. It's like the duck cassoulet that I have on the menu.
Okay, yeah.
So we were having a little bit of issues with the duck cassoulet because as soon as people eat it, they're saying that the duck is salty. Now, what people are not understanding is that the duck, it's a pastrami duck. So, and you would understand pastrami probably more than some of the southern people out here because it's more of an East Coast type deli meat.
Yeah, we make pastrami. Yeah.
And so the pastrami is going to be a little bit salty on a normal basis.
Absolutely.
But with the cassoulet, what happens is, and I've explained this to the waiters, and my duck cassoulet is starting to pick up now because what I've told them is that the cassoulet beans itself, the stews, is not seasoned. The homemade garlic sausage that I make, which is also coming from is a ground Berkshire pork that I'm using, that's seasoned. But the saltiness is coming from that pastrami duck. So if you take the pastrami duck and you eat the sausage and the beans together, your mouth explodes.
Yeah.
But if you just have the pastrami duck by itself, you're going to be like, oh, the duck is salty. If you eat the beans, you'll be like, oh, it's not seasoned.
It's not seasoned.
Then you eat the sausage, oh, the sausage is good.
Right.
there's a technique of eating a dish. So
Yeah.
once you put all these things together, and you're going to be like, oh, wow. Because I had Chef Titus come by.
I love that guy.
And, well, little story. Titus started with me in '06.
Did he?
Yeah. He worked with me when we first opened up, so. And he came by one night, and he was hanging out at the bar. I was like, dude, I'm going to take care of you. So I started giving him like 4 or 5 courses I was putting together. And that day, Jeff Janssen was asking me for a passport. I was like, dude, can you make your orange beef? Because I make a Asian orange beef for family food.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I surprised him. I said, hey, I'm making orange beef for us tonight. I said, okay. So I gave Titus some of the orange beef, and then I gave him the duck cassoulet to finish off. And basically what I'm telling you is what he said, the same thing. He was like, man, I ate the beans by itself, and I was like, okay. Ate the sausage, good. Ate the duck by itself, a little salty. But, dude, when I put these 3 things together, my mouth just went boom. It just exploded. And I was like, okay, good. I'm getting that from a person that's eating that. I'm not saying it because I'm just the chef
Right.
part of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we had another guy, I think it was Bill Vickery, that came in to eat. And he's been coming in regularly 4 or 5, past couple of weeks, at least 4 or 5 times. And he had the duck cassoulet on Friday. And he was like, Chef, oh my God. Like, Tom, my word, told me how to eat this duck cassoulet, and it was freaking amazing. I couldn't believe the flavors once I put everything together in the mix.
Right.
You know, it's like eating an amazing stew.
Yeah.
Once you put everything together, and you know, like chili. You let chili sit for 2 days after you make it. It tastes even better.
It's better.
When you first cook.
Yeah, when you chili the first day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, all right. So I'm doing the foie next. You saying cassoulet? Go cassoulet after
I would
that?
say, okay, so if you want we do foie gras. Let's say you start off with amuse bouche. I get you with a foie gras. Then what we can do is we can get you started. I would say you can start with the tom yum soup that we serve that. And that comes with it's a creamy coconut curry sauce. There's with the tom yum, you have different regions that make it. The soup style.
Yeah.
So the one I make is basically with a red curry, coconut milk. You got lemongrass, ginger, garlic, jalapenos are in there. Fish sauce. It's finished with fish sauce, lime juice. So what we do is on the bowl itself, you get cilantro, green onions in the bowl. You get shrimp in there, and then what I do is I do a cilantro floral tuile, which is off of like a stencil.
Yeah.
So we put that in the bowl as a garnish. And then the tom yum soup basically gets pulled served in a pitcher. And then the waiter comes up, brings you the garnish of the soup bowl, and then the waiter pours your soup in your bowl.
Very cool. That's awesome.
So you get a full service on that. Then after that, I would probably have you do the Morton Brady smoked duck salad. And that duck salad is coming from Yvette Brady and Tim Morton, original from the 1620 restaurant. Okay. And I did that as a tribute to Tim since he's passed away this past year. So I would have you start on that. Then from there, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3rd course. 4th course, I would probably have you try our sake steak. So it's I use the origami sake here, locally from Arkansas.
Delicious. Just have Brett pass it in. Yeah.
And that gets mixed in with ginger, shallots, garlic, jalapenos, the sake, soy sauce, and then that steak gets marinated and backpacked, and it's sitting there for about a week.
Nice.
Marinating. And then what we do is we grill it to whatever temp that you want. And I usually suggest at least like mid-rare.
Yeah.
And then we do a stir-fry vegetable with the local bok choy, peppers, onions, carrots. And then we do finish it off with a sweet soy sauce to finish it with it. And then what I do is we have a wasabi, coconut wasabi mashed potatoes and lotus root to finish it off with.
That's beautiful. Amazing. What am I doing for dessert?
For dessert, See, I can't with dessert. It's gonna be a surprise
Oh, there you
because
go.
I don't have a dessert menu.
Okay.
So our chocolate sack is our standard dessert, and then what we do is we do specialty desserts on a daily basis.
That's awesome.
So
Is that you, or do you have somebody?
no, this it's me and my team working together.
That's awesome.
So like when we did the soft opening, we did a sweet potato cake with cherry filling, fig jam, and a cranberry foam on that. Then a second dessert we did was I think not a Black Forest cake, but it was a chocolate cake that we did, but we cooked it as a sheet pan, like a sponge,
Yeah.
chocolate sponge cake. And then we did a vanilla pastry cream with strawberries marinated in Grand Marnier, chocolate ganache, and then we put on a marshmallow fluff on there, which we actually use on the chocolate sack.
That's awesome.
So everything in house when you come into sew, everything is made from scratch. So all our breads are made from scratch. That's why when you get bread service, you are paying for bread service, but you're paying for homemade focaccia bread. You're paying for homemade olive bread.
Yeah.
You're paying for a homemade challah bread. And right now even like our bread service is starting to pick up.
That's awesome.
People are enjoying like the fresh bread that we're making in house. So I mean, and that's basically in a normal New York style restaurant, everything is made. Usually 9 or 10 times, like I don't have a pastry chef, and I'm working on making the desserts. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to have a menu either, because I didn't want it to get stale that way when it comes to desserts. Because a lot of people,
pigeonhole yourself, yeah.
by the time most people eat 3-4 courses, the last thing they think about is having dessert. They're full. But if you come out, hey, our dessert special for tonight is such and such, and they'll be like, oh, well, let me take one. I'll try it.
Right.
And then you put one out on the table, and they're like, oh, can I get one of those?
Yeah.
And then the chain starts.
Yeah.
It's no difference like when you go to like a Mexican restaurant, you have some fajita steaks.
Yeah.
First thing you're doing is you're smelling that steak coming through the dining room.
And
then you try to make a decision what you want to eat, and then you're like, I'll take that.
So it's kind of funny because I tell people at Brood, like my servers over there at Brood and Barley, I'm like, all right, listen, you're going to take this dish out, okay, and it's going to table 11, which is like the furthest table away from the kitchen. But I want you to take the long way around. I don't want you to hold it this way. Hold it down a little bit. I want everybody to see that dish on the way to that table, okay? And then sure enough, ding, ding. I'm like, all right, it worked. It worked.
Up.
Yeah.
Same thing like with our the filet. So our filet comes from a local farm, John Warman Farms. They're out of Morrilton. It's a prime grass-fed beef. So we do a house-made chili rub. So what we do is we take poblano peppers, jalapeno peppers, and then we do a not Anaheim. I'm trying to think of the other pepper. But Marconi's. Excuse me. So we
Okay.
make Marconi's because we get the sweetness on the Marconi peppers.
Mm-hmm.
So we smoke these peppers for at least 5 to 6 hours.
You peel them first, or you?
No.
Okay.
They
go right on.
They go straight in. So after they're smoked, I put them in my dehydrator. So I dehydrate them. That'll take almost 24 hours to dehydrate them. So then what we do from there is basically we take the caps off and we grind the peppers, add a little kosher salt to it, and that's our seasoning rub. So you're going to get the spices from the chili peppers. You're getting the smoke flavor because the peppers have been smoked.
Mm-hmm.
We rub it onto the filet. Then we put the filet back into our smoker for a couple of hours at a low smoke at 250. And then we basically smoke it to like a rare temperature.
Okay.
So when you guys order it, basically all we do is mark it, grill it, finish it off in the oven, just depending on the temperature that you want. It's finished off with Mexican street corn, queso fresco, and then I do a French-style herb lyonnaise potatoes that goes with it.
Love a lyonnaise potato.
It's basically a heirloom fingerling potato that we use.
Okay.
Then what I do is I make a blackberry southwestern barbecue sauce that goes with this filet. Now the whole part with the filet is when it comes to the show, the fine dining part is that when you get that filet, I have a cloche that goes over the filet, and then we put mesquite smoke in it.
Nice.
So when you get it served, the waiters, I told them, I said, before you take the cloche off, I said, if anybody wants to take a camera, take a picture of it, I said, make sure they do it in slow-mo. So as the waiter slowly lifts the cloche off, you slowly, in slow motion, you see the smoke coming off of the filet, and then you have a little show that's right on.
That's awesome.
Plate. Like we had a couple that came in last night, and they've eaten at Alinea, and they've eaten at Per Se and stuff like that, and they ordered the filet. And I went to speak to them, and I asked them, because they hadn't been in almost 4 or 5 months, and it was the first time they had came to eat. And then she's like, Chef, we ordered the filet, and with the whole smoke and the presentation day, it reminded me of like we was at Per Se or Alinea and stuff like that. And I said, that's great. I'm glad that you feel that you're getting that vibe here.
Right.
We had another couple that came in last week from California. They found us online, and she said that we made her trip because they were on their way back to California, and they were sitting in the back room in the Jeannie Smith room, and the waitress called me up and they wanted to talk to me, and the lady just came out, this didn't come out of my mouth. She was like, Chef, I just wanted to ask you something. I was like, sure. I was like, we just found you online, and we're so happy that we found you to come to this restaurant, and we're just passing through. But is this restaurant like a James Beard or Michelin star restaurant or anything? I said, no, ma'am. But I'm glad that you said that, because those are what our goals are in here. And we're trying to run it like a New York style, fine dining restaurant.
Yeah.
She was like, I mean, the food, everything that I've eaten from the 3-4 courses that we eat here, I'm like just the different flavor profiles that you have here. And your menu is so elaborate.
Yeah.
And like a few people that I've talked to when I showed them the menu for open up, they're like, dude, this is a large menu for you to have in this small restaurant.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, well, you don't understand. When I opened up Solo, our menu was bigger than this.
Yeah.
And they had us do a bar menu. So when I did this menu, when you come down and you look at it, I have a lot of appetizers on there. The purpose of having those appetizers is also to take care of the bar.
Gotcha.
So when they sit down, people can sit at the bar. They might not want to have the entrees, but I got plenty of bar selection, from the seafood towers, to the octopus, to the ceviche. So I have a whole bunch of different international flavors that you can come in and eat.
Nice.
I had, I think one of Ron's friends came in a while back, and the guy sat at the bar. He said, man, I felt like I was going to different countries because I couldn't stop eating. I ordered like 4 different appetizers, and each one had like such different, distinct flavors that I was just like amazed. And I said, well, thank you very much. I mean, I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
I mean, I try to. It's for me. I always try to stay as humble as possible, because this business, a lot of people don't realize that you can learn so much.
Oh, yeah.
In this business with all the different types of international foods that you have here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know you have a lot of chefs that are cocky, that they're just in their own realm. Like, I'm only French, I'm only Italian, I'm only from this region. And
there's just so much out there.
and it's great. It's great because that's, what you are. But because of the style of cooking that I've been brought up as a kid, and being in New York and working at the different restaurants I have, there's so many international flavors that you can enjoy and eat, and it's just the way that I cook.
Yeah.
Because we did a wine dinner the other day, and the guy asked me, was like, do you always, is this your style, bold? I was like, yeah. It's always been bold flavors and international flavors. It's just the way that I was, taught how to cook in New York.
That's what I do. Yeah.
You know?
So what does the future hold for So, man?
Man, I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah.
I really am. I mean, like I said, I love this restaurant. We're working on, our future is to do, catering. I got working on a small catering event for a doctor's clinic that's just coming up for a Christmas party. We have a possible wine dinners coming up at one of our clients' houses.
Awesome.
So, we're just slowly trying to build our crowd. Like I was telling you, Rusty's office, I mean, we're still working on our reservations online with our computer system and stuff, but the word of mouth that's been happening just in Little Rock has been amazing. I mean, a lot of times we only have 4 or 5 reservations, and you as an owner, you're like, oh God, where are these people coming? I got bills to pay. I mean,
exactly.
Especially when you first open up, you got a month of bills that you got to, catch up on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not including taking care of your employees and everything.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been a blessing because it's like we've had 4 or 5 reservations, and we're doing 30, 40 covers a night, on a regular basis. You have your off nights here and there. This Sunday was slow. Last Sunday we did 40, 50 covers.
Yeah.
This whole week has been pretty decent. We had Tuesday, we had the Wind Rock group was in with the board of directors.
Nice.
We had 4 courses. The restaurant itself, there were a party of 20 that sat in the front of the wine room. We did another like 20, 30 covers on top of that. Wednesday was slow. Thursday we did about 40 covers. Friday we did about the same thing. This past Saturday's been one of our busiest Saturdays because of all the football games that happen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A lot of times kills the smaller restaurants.
Yeah, for sure.
Because everybody's going to Fayetteville to watch the game.
Yeah, we struggle with that too. Yeah.
And then so we're very happy that we're starting to get the old clientele and new clientele. Like I had, like I said, we did like 6 people last night, but we had a couple that hasn't been in the restaurant in almost 4 months.
Right.
And then we had a couple that was in the front. It was the first timers.
Yeah.
And there were a younger generation that came in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, they said the food was delicious. It was the first time they would come to the restaurant.
That's awesome.
So they'll come back. The couple that came in, the older couple that came in that they hadn't been there for almost 4 months, they said, we're coming back. We're bringing friends. We love to eat. We go out to fine dining places and we travel. And, and these are the type of people that are going to, come in.
Yeah.
They want to eat something different,
Yeah. I want the same stuff. Yeah.
And they want this, because you have a lot of people that I guess you could say they're almost OCD in the restaurant world when it comes to them eating. Like, okay, I'm going to go to this restaurant for this on Tuesday. I'm going to go for this restaurant on Wednesday for this. I want to eat. Thursday, I'm going to go down here. Friday, I eat this. And then Saturday, I might interchange into different restaurants or whatever, But, our whole thing is trying to get, people just to come in, not just enjoy the food, the atmosphere, the wine and stuff, but also trying to break, I guess, the bad, what's the best word I can say it? I'm trying to find a word. Whatever, I guess you could say, whatever bad history the restaurant has had in the past 5 years for what's happened. And to get over that.
Yeah.
And to actually realize, hey, this is a new management, there's new food.
Joe's back.
Joe's back for people that were there when I first opened up, and people that have never heard of me, just to come in and just try the restaurant itself and the atmosphere. Because like one of my linen company that came in, one of the guys came in, he was like, man, before you got here, I thought like the restaurant is starting to move up. And then like I walk in here, I'm like, you're at a whole nother level the way you got this restaurant set up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was like, what are you trying to do? Be the best restaurant in Little Rock? Yeah, that's
the plan.
That's the plan and that's the goal.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to shoot for, And granted, every restaurant's going to have their kinks.
Yeah, of course.
And
it happens.
We're still working on it, but we're working on it for the better.
Yeah.
And to make sure that everybody gets serviced correctly and 100%, because we're trying our best to, do French style service. And, you know, everybody's, you know, still in training, trying to get everything taken care of. But, you know, our nights are getting better, and that's not just food wise. Service wise is getting better. You know, we're having less kinks or issues. Like little people might not realize it, but it's the little stuff when you're sitting at a table. You know, we have a basic setup just on utensils that get set on the table. But as you go by courses, the waiters has to do the mise en place and set up your table.
Yeah, need this fork for this course, this spoon for this course. Yeah.
So if you're having a soup, you don't have a soup spoon when you sit there. They got to bring you a soup spoon. If you're having a steak, you know, they got to make sure the steak knife is present before you get your plate. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
The ramen bowl. You get the ramen bowl, you got the chopsticks and the rocks that sits on your plate setting.
Right.
So it's all this stuff that gives you that preparedness for the diner experience. So when they come in to eat and be like, okay, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what's happening.
I mean, we had a customer the other day that came in and they own, I think, a Wagyu farm. And the first thing they noticed on how our silverware was polished.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe how you guys are so clean in this restaurant.
Yeah.
Like we've gone to other restaurants here locally, and like the silverware is spotted or fingerprints, and like I tell some of these guys, if you got sweaty palms, put on some gloves. To polish up the silver, so we don't have any fingerprints when people come.
Devil's in the details.
Yeah, and it's the little stuff like that that's gonna make you stand out compared to your normal restaurants.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you, Joe, that everybody that I talk to, so everybody always asks, like, Bray, who's coming on the podcast this week? And I said, Joey's going to be there. Joey Salgueiro's going to be there. And everybody's like, man, not only is Joey a stand-up guy, talented as hell, man. We know we're happy that he's back at So. I can't tell you how many people have said that to me. I've been here 5 years from Philly. Right. This is the first time you and I have ever had a conversation, and but everybody that I've talked to is happy that you're back, man, and I think it's awesome.
I mean it's pretty cool, and like I said, for me, I'm a real humble chef, so when I hear like the public saying stuff like that, to me it's just like I'm like, wow, really? Yeah. It's kind of it's like amazing to hear it,
Yeah.
Because I'm usually just my concentration is to make sure that things are done right and like the way they're supposed to be done, and like I'm like a lie. I barely venture out anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I just basically work, go home, and go back to work.
That's how you stay married.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, man, listen, this is what I would like to do.
Sure.
I mean, you're 3 weeks deep right now.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished so much in 3 weeks. What I'd like to do is we're going to go out a year. And then I'm going to hit you up and say, all right, man, it's time to get back on the podcast, and we want to hear what happened in the last year. We're rolling right along.
And like I was, when I was telling you and Rusty, I was like, I got like 3 weeks that I opened up, and I've had 4 food critics within 3 weeks. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like,
let me breathe.
Well, not just that, but I'm like, it's like, okay, man, is like, the anticipation is so high out there that these people are coming in so early. Because usually a food critic normally would come in like within at least give you 2 months or so before get your feet wet. But I'm like, these guys came in right away, and I was like, every time I turn around, it was like that previous Friday. Like I said, we had 50 reservations, and we have 40 walk-ins, and it was one of those nights that we were short-staffed.
Oh yeah.
So we had like 2 waiters that were out because they had requested out to be off. And then, like I said, we just got hit. And that night I have 4 food critics in the building. And it's just like, he's here.
Perfect storm.
She's here. He's here. I was
like, come on.
And they're all sitting in different corners of the building. And I'm like, next thing I know, I'm looking online. And I was like, oh, yeah, I went to eat here. And I'm looking at pictures. And I'm like, okay. I was like, all right. So, I mean, everything that they say, I just, take it as good constructive criticism. And
absolutely.
There's some truth in the items that they say. And I'm like, okay, I got to, it's basically, it's smacked in your face, right? You need to attack this. We need to take care of this. We need to fix this.
Absolutely.
Like I said, one of the issues was the duck cassoulet, and that's why I was trying to train the waiters. Like, hey, you need to explain to them that there's a procedure they need to eat this. You know, situation with the wine list. You know, we're working trying to push out our old wines. So, I mean, we have a wine list made right now with what we have in house. You know, it's not a hard book cover one.
Right.
That's going to come out once we have all our wines that we want. Like another thing, when we talk about specialty wines, we got 2 cases of bond wine that's on hold right now.
Oh man.
And I mean, you're looking at like, you know, $2,200 a pop on a bottle.
Yeah.
We're the only ones in Little Rock right now, or in Arkansas, that has this bond wine right now.
Right.
Which we're planning to do a dinner within the next month or so.
That's awesome.
So, you know, it's stuff like that where we're talking about exclusivity, people coming in to eat and drink, you know. We bought a new whiskey rye that just came in to Little Rock. We sold the bottle in one night.
Jesus.
This big. In one night. I came in the next day, I'm like, we just got this bottle.
Yeah, that's gone.
And we wound up buying 2 more coming in. And we have another new whiskey that's about to come in on Tuesday. And we have like 3 or 4, Jeff just, I think, purchased 3 or 4 different wines that are coming in this week. I mean, we have Armenian wines, we have some Spanish wines. I mean,
That's awesome.
you know, we got some South African wines. I mean, so, you know.
I love me wine from South Africa. I mean, South African, like a Gruner or something like that. I'm all over it.
So,
Can't get me away with it. You can't get me away from it.
I mean, it's good. Like we had I think one of our Google reviews, the guy had the duck cassoulet, and he had one of our Armenian wines, and he said it was paired perfect.
Nice.
You know, he gave us a 4.1, which I take that. That's
I'll
great.
take that all day.
Take that all day.
Well, good stuff, man. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And I'm telling you,
in.
a year from now, I'm going to come back.
I'll be on it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I'll bring you some food too next time.
All right. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, I got you. Just text me, hey, I was like, I'll bring you something to eat.
Everybody get a chance, go check out So. Joey Salgueiro is back over at So, doing amazing things. I've been following him. Super excited to get up there. Got to go check it out. I'd like to thank Rusty over here, who is the GM over here at Benny Keith. And this is Rusty's baby over here. Thank you for the platform, bud. Also like to thank Rob Nelson, who's the head of technology over here. Rob's going to make us sound real pretty. I appreciate that, Rob. All right, everybody, you can listen to Heaping Spoonful the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month, coming right out of Benny Keith Studios. If you are interested in being on the show, telling your story, come hit me up. I am Brian McFadden, chef owner of Brood and Barley. Come see us. All right, folks. Talk to you next week.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.